Wine and Cheese presents the Uncorked podcast. Hey everyone, it's Natalie. I'm so excited. I have music now. I'm learning more about editing with each episode, so bear with me. But anyway, let's get right into it. Welcome to the Uncorked podcast, episode 2. If you're just joining us, this Uncorked podcast started as a monthly conference call, so what you'll hear in the first few episodes are actual recordings from those calls, but by episode 5, we should be running like a well-oiled machine. Who am I kidding? But anyway, I'm the founder of Whine and Cheese Incorporated. We are a nonprofit organization that creates safe spaces for women to whine about the stresses of their lives and cheese or smile about their blessings. So if you are looking for an outlet to vent or just need some extra encouragement, we got you covered. Women from all walks of life gather in groups that we call branches in cities all across the country to whine and cheese. So check out our website by visiting foreverywhine.org. That's FOREVERYWHINE.org. During each Uncorked episode, we're going to be discussing topics of importance to the members and friends of the Wine and Cheese community. This time, we're discussing personal branding with Kimberly S. Reed. Take a listen.
I'd like to introduce you all to Kimberly S. Reed, who will speak with us on the topic of personal branding. Innovator and diversity expert, Kimberly S. Reed, also known as the corporatepreneur, managing partner, and CEO of Reed Development Group, LLC, has developed a reputation as having one of the most distinct and powerful voices on the lecture circuit. Her lioness tone and inspiring sincerity empowers audiences on topics ranging from organizational leadership, entrepreneurial leadership, professional and personal development, diversity and inclusion, and presentation skills. Kim is a seasoned leader in transforming organizations into innovative, high-performing enterprises and challenges professionals to live without limits. Dearest to Kim's heart is her talks on resiliency, and as a recent breast cancer survivor, she has had to tap into a deeper place to generate the faith and determination to make the necessary changes in her life and attitude to become cancer-free. So, Kim, let's pop the cork on all things personal branding.
All right. I love that. Well, good evening, ladies. I am so happy to be here. Natalie, thank you for your vision. Thank you for inviting me on to this call, and I'm excited to get right to it. This is one of my favorite topics. It is an extremely important topic to all of us. And just to give you some background on branding and why this is so vital for us is simply because in today's professional business world, people have options, but they want to do business, work with us more than ever before. And this is why it is vital that we focus on building a winning and sustainable brand. So before I give you Kim's top 5 tips for maintaining a winning brand that is going to ignite your personal power, Here is a brand fact. People trust and like people they know. We know that. We do that. We exercise that. Us on this call. People believe and they buy into, if you will, to people that we have relationships with. So let me say that again. People believe and buy into people that we have relationships with. Overall, people are more likely to do business with people they know, like, trust, and have a strong and consistent brand. And more importantly, they want to know without a shadow of a doubt that they can align themselves with you without worry. So that's how strong a brand is. And that's what I want you all to think about as I talk about our tips, as you think about your questions, as you think about your personal brand, as you think about if it's not created, how are we going to create it? If you think that you have a decent brand, how are we going to take that brand from good to great? If you are a more seasoned professional, you may say, Kim, I'm on the call tonight because I'm supporting Natalie Dean's vision, and I don't need brand help. Everyone always needs to take their brand either from average to good, from good to great to exceptional, and to exceptional to the stars. So, tip number 1. This is something that you all, it has to get into your DNA. Your brand is your most prized possession. This is going to be in your personal and your professional DNA, whether you are a professional, whether you are an executive, whether you are an entrepreneur like myself, an aspiring entrepreneur. Your brand is your most prized possession, because if your brand gets compromised, you have nothing at the moment to sell, to discuss. And also, that is possession. Tip number 2, we must build and or maintain a smart, consistent, and valued brand that creates awareness of what we as professionals, entrepreneurs, students stand for. So we must build and maintain a smart and consistent value brand. Who are we? What do we stand for? Don't build a brand that is something that you are not or that you think that you should be. Build a brand and maintain a brand of the person of who you are now. Oftentimes, I remember when I was in corporate America, it was be a chameleon. A chameleon changes for the environment. But a chameleon is always a chameleon. So as it relates to our brand, we must build, maintain, create a brand that of who we are. However, Our brand may evolve, but we will always be the same. Tip number 3. We must, as professionals, entrepreneurs, business professionals, students, whomever we label ourselves as, which is a part of our brand today, we must realize that our black books, our Rolodexes, are worth more than our checkbook. I'll say that again. We have to realize that our black book, our Rolodexes, are worth more than our checkbook. Relationships are worth so much more than money. Our brands are the catalyst for all relationships of value. Our brands, when they're strong, when they're developed, when we create them, and I'll tell you how we'll do that in a moment, but it is the entryway and the sustainability of them that is the glue of relationships. So when you realize the importance of relationships, when you realize that relationships are the next currency, there is a sense of urgency to understand the value of your brand. And how do you build that? You're thinking about, do you become a subject matter expert in a space of which you are familiar with? Do you start becoming a brand by building and talking to people in your network and cultivating and maintaining strong relationships and let people be your advocate and speak for you? Or do you start a presence in the social media atmosphere that is consistent of empowerment, for example? That you decide that you want to be an inspiration to people. And that is how your brand starts to evolve. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But the tip here is understanding that a strong brand is important because relationships are currency. Tip number 4. Your brand, you have or you lose it. If you can't give everything you've got to your brand, you'll never get everything you want from it. So if you decide that I'm going to start this quest to build my brand and do what it takes to maintain it and do what it takes to grow it, etc. If you don't give all that you've got, you're never going to get what you need from it. A lot of times people say to me, Kim, I don't see the importance of this. I'm a good person. People know me. I do great work. People are going to do business with you if they like you, so I don't know if it's this whole reputation or brand piece. My reputation's strong, it's okay. You're making too much of a deal of this. Said, I'm not. It's vital that we understand that once your brand is established, you've got to grow it. It can't ever just be dormant. So understanding that once you have it, you're either going to build it or you're going to lose it. But you can't do both. Tip number 5. A strong and valuable brand allows us to gain trust, which ultimately leads to more business for my entrepreneurs, jobs to my professionals. If you're looking for a new opportunity, If you're currently in a corporate environment and you're looking to navigate and you're looking for upward mobility, you want to build relationships, network, and exposure, perhaps. You want to become a subject matter expert. Let me talk to the professionals inside in corporate America for a moment. When I was in corporate America, I saw many careers derail because of this fact. We put our heads down and we work hard. We're supposed to do that. But what you're also supposed to do is lift your head up, look to the left, look to the right, because relationships are meant to be built and nurtured. When your head is down and all you're focused on is the work, people don't know who you are, what you do, and how well you do it. That is critical to growing a strong brand. So I'm going to pause and those were the 5 tips. But Natalie, I'm going to give a bonus tip because it's Women's Month and Day. So here's the bonus tip. There's a functionality about our brand that we need to understand. And here's how our brand functions in this simple sentence. If you don't star in your own life, who else will? So, what does that mean? You have to build your brand. You have to see this as important. You have to decide what you're going to stand for. You have to decide what you want to be known for. No one else can build that for you. Because once your brand is built and sustained and elevated, you are the star. So this is your brand, your life. So no one else will do this but you, and you can. Natalie, I'm going to turn this over for questions, and I have additional thoughts if we need them.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim. I couldn't write fast enough. I'm so glad this is being recorded because these were certainly some gems. We do have a few questions that have come via email and also on Twitter. I want to remind the ladies on the call, if you would like to submit questions via Twitter, you can do so by using the hashtag UncorkedConvo. Or you can send an email reply to the call-in detail email you got this afternoon. But we will start with this question that comes from Terry. And it's actually one of the questions I have for you as well, so I will combine them. What are some common threats to a personal and or professional brand that we should be aware of? And Terry asks, how can we protect our brand, specifically when you're first walking into a room? Because we know that first impressions are lasting ones.
Absolutely. So here's what you need to think about. When you're and Natalie, will you ask me the question again about
Sure.
the first impression, please?
Yep.
I want to talk about that first because that's so important.
Yes. So the question was, is it possible to protect your brand as soon as you walk into a room, or is that just a first impression?
So that is a first impression. However, if you are your true authentic self, because a lot of times, people have their own judgment, right? They have their own perception of who they think you are. But what if you are yourself and your authenticity and you meet that person for the first time and it is the opposite of what they think they know? Mm-hmm. You have won them over. So I will say this. When you meet people for the first time, i.e. first impressions, Always be true to who you are. Be authentic in that, and people will then start to judge you on that and less of who they perceive you to be or who they heard that you are. That makes sense.
I love that. Great.
And what was the second part of that?
What are some common threats to your brand that we should be aware of?
So here's the thing. So I always go back to social media because right now that is huge, right? We see that play out in a very bad way, right? So I want to say this to you all. I want you all to think before you post. I want you to think before you post on social media. Because what happens here, and oftentimes, not just with social media, in general, you'll lose credibility if you attack others, or if you start to toot your own horn nonstop, right? You have those people, they're amazing all the time. They're great. They did this phenomenal thing yesterday, last hour, the day before yesterday, the month before, etc. I'm going to ask you all these rhetorical questions, okay? This is very important because as you build your brand and this gets into the universe, you need to ask yourself and answer these questions first. What is your goal when you post or building your brand? What's your goal? What's the goal? Is it to inspire others? Is it to make others aware of information? Simply, let people know, or is it really just to simply let people know what you're doing? Hey, I just got a great award. And is it sprinkled with humility? Is it to simply brag? Are you showing off for an ex-boyfriend or a young lady or a lady that you have competition with? Showboating? You've got to be honest with yourself on why you post, because that is a part of the evolution of your brand. And be consistent. Whatever that answer is, you only know that. I'm not here to judge you on why you do it, but be honest with yourself and be consistent with that.
Wonderful. Actually, Kim, while we're on that topic of social media, to your point, we know in this day and age, especially with a lot of the celebrity and politician missteps, that we can be, we are what we tweet. Mm-hmm. So if for some reason we haven't asked ourselves those questions you just posed before we post, what is some damage control that can be done when you've made a branding faux pas and it's now archived in the Twitterverse?
So, I've done that, Natalie. I'll speak from experience. So I made a comment some time ago, out of anger, and it had to do with politics, and it was a bit out of line. And I realized it was, and what I've done since then is I have changed my direction on on my commentary around politics, and I'm consistent with that. Mm. So yes, it was one tweet. It was an inappropriate tweet. Now, I didn't curse. It probably wasn't bad to many, but it was bad to me because there's a brand that I create on social media specifically. But how you turn that around, and you can turn that around, is that it takes time, it takes consistency, and you have to choose your message. So if you've done something wrong or you said something that out of turn or you swore, then once you recognize that, then you follow that up with a different approach, a different style, and a different message of tweet that is consistent. And I would say from a time duration perspective, Natalie, and all ladies on the call, you want to do that for at least 30 to 60 days because then people will forget. And then, especially on Twitter, Instagram, and feeds, it's so far buried, people tend not to remember. So that's usually the rule of thumb.
Got it. Great advice. So we have a question that comes in via Twitter from @RickyLikeLake. How do you maintain a winning brand professionally while staying true to who you are personally, especially in today's world? Sometimes there is this dichotomy of who we are in the professional world and maybe some of our views and stances personally. So how do we make sure that we are remaining authentic, but then also probably delicately walking that line?
So I will answer this again from a personal perspective. So I teach college, and my students see me in the classroom as Kim. And I made this choice to teach college. I made the choice to mentor students. I made the choice to be a role model in the community. And I made the choice to service clients and to create this brand of one of integrity, etc. And when you make a choice of sorts, you make a choice of a lifestyle. And that also includes social media. It includes your brand. It includes how you conduct yourself external to your home, right? So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. So as I mentioned, let me go back to, I told you all that what I do, and I made a choice to do that. So if I walked into a club for a party, for a birthday party for a friend of mine one Saturday. A couple of my friends went with me. So we got to the front door, and I saw two of my students there. I walked in, I saw them, they said hello, I said hello, and I left. I left because it wasn't appropriate for me, in my mind, to be at a place having a cocktail, dancing, drinking, partying with my students. So you say, Kim, where's the brand in that? It is a brand there. Because what would my brand be if I had a whole night with them doing exactly what they do? How would that bend my credibility? Remember, your brand isn't about your logo. It isn't about your colors. It isn't about, it's about it is about your authentic self. It is about who you become. It is what you do every single day, and it has to be built. So you have to decide what that looks like. And if your job is professional and you are a professional and you're working, etc., then personally you may not be able to do everything that you used to do. And depending on what that is. So having a strong brand sometimes is a choice.
And I appreciate that. And I might also flip that and say, sometimes, depending on what you do professionally, if it does not ring true to who you are authentically on a personal level, you may be in the wrong line of work or maybe at the wrong company. I can speak from experience in saying that I really adapted the notion of self-care and making sure that I was putting myself first. And I realized that I was in a position at a very high-ranking company where I just did not have the opportunity to really take a break from work. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so in that same way, I had to protect my brand and my authentic self to know, okay, this may be a great career, but it is detrimental to who I am personally and authentically. So Absolutely. In the same way, right.
Absolutely. And Natalie, I will say this, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I think mm-hmm. you raised an extremely vital point, and I know we're closing for time, but I do think this is important. Our brand elevates our credibility. And because, we all embrace being in the spotlight, right? We have to balance, to your point, professional and personal. But remember, the universe will find us. Right? Because your brand automatically elevates your credibility. So once it raises, you're in the spotlight now. So that becomes the choices that you have to make. So, yes. So that goes back to what you just said, Natalie. So I just wanted to reiterate how important that choice is.
No, you're absolutely right, and thank you for sharing that. Well,
yes.
I want to thank you, Kim, so much for your insight on all things branding. Give us some information on how we can keep in touch with you after the call. Is there a social media account we should follow or a website to visit? Let us know how we can keep in touch.
All righty. Absolutely. So my email address is Kim, S as in save, R as in Robert, the number 10 at AOL.com. And at all my social media handles are the same. So it's Kimberly, S as in Sam, Reed, R-E-E-D. And my website is www.thereeddevelopmentgroup.com. So please reach out to me. Thank you so much for having me. Remember, your brand is your most prized possession, and all of you have just been Kim-powered. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kim. Ladies, thank you for joining Whine and Cheese's Uncorked speaker series. Visit us, friend us, and follow us so that we can stay engaged with you on topics like this and so much more. Remember, for every whine, there is a cheese or reason to smile. And with that said, good night and God bless you all.
Good night. God bless.
Want to know what's on tap? We'll always announce the topic of our next Uncorked episode on our social media channels. Search for us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram using the handle @ForEveryWhine. Feel free to join in on the discussion using the hashtag UncorkedConvo. Until next time, for every whine, there is a cheese.